Peace, y'all. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Word. So, first, I just want to thank you for inviting me out here to be able to share some time with all of you. Yeah. You know, anytime I get an opportunity to speak where you're going to sit here and listen to you, I take advantage of the opportunity, right? Just checking out this school. This is the first time I've been here at Sweet Home. Right? So I'm from Niagara Falls, so the school district, I'm not sure how many people have been at the high school in Niagara Falls. It's a lot different than what I've just been able to see here today, especially just in this room with some of the things that you have access to. You know, this type of project that you're working on right now, they're not doing no project like that in Niagara Falls or in this high school, so you have a unique opportunity to learn about perspectives of life that is outside of maybe some of your own personal experiences, and that's important because as you get older, you're going to be a part of a global community, and it's important for you to have a mindset and a perspective that allows you to engage with others from different places, not even going to other countries, but just right here in America. First question I have for all of you, right? And you can show me by, raise a hand. How many people recognize different injustices that they see today? By show of hands. Hold them up so I can see, because some of y'all can't see whether or not you agree with what I'm saying. Okay. How many people's going to do something about it? That's the problem. That is the problem. That's why it exists. You see how you all just sat there and didn't know whether you wanted to do something about it or not? That is why you see it. Because you have too many people who recognize stuff. You all recognize stuff, right? As soon as I asked you who's going to do something about it, none of you raised your hand. None of you. That is the problem. That's why it exists. So now we're going to talk about how you can have the courage to raise your hand and to do something about the things that you all see. Because obviously you do see something. You acknowledged it. Now what you're going to do about it? This world is eventually going to be yours. You're going to be the leaders of the future. So if you don't have a commitment to do something about it, guess what this world is going to look like? It's going to look worse than what you see right now. Now, there's some beauty in this world, obviously, but there's a lot of things that's broken as well. And you're going to be the ones responsible for repairing what you see that's broken. So a lot of the things that you've been reading is not something you can get a grade for. You're learning about being responsible for this world that you are going to inherit. And you have to think about that. This has nothing to do with you getting a job and getting money when you get older. Anybody can do that. That's simple. People do that right now. It's about being courageous enough to raise your hand when you see something wrong, doing something about it. Does that make sense to all of you? Okay. Another question. Minority, right? When you look at sex ratios in America right now, 2019, the sex ratios or male to female is 0.980, which means for every 980 males, there's 1,000 females, right? Got a question. How are women a minority when they're the majority? How? How's that possible? Because I'm sure some of you sit here and you're thinking, oh, a minority means a small group of people. Women outnumber men right now. How are women a minority? Question.
They don't get the same opportunities that we do. They don't get the same opportunities that men do.
Okay, did y'all hear what he said back here, up here? So being a minority has something to do with opportunities. Yeah. Okay, what's another reason? How is it possible that women are called or defined as minorities even though they outnumber men right now?
Because they always haven't been equal to men. They were given rights to vote back in the day, and they didn't have as many rights. It's more recently that they become more equal and given more rights and opportunities.
True indeed. Anybody watch soccer? I'm gonna give y'all some homework to check out, right? Look at the amount of money that the U.S. soccer men's team makes. And the women's team are way better than them. But look at how much the men make in comparison to the women. That's some homework for y'all. Right? Are you able to have phones while you're in school? Okay. Somebody take out a phone and Google what the word minority means, because I'm not sure. Has anybody looked up the definition of the word minority? Because we're talking about minority groups and stuff like that, right? Somebody look up, go to Google and put in a definition of minority.
The smaller number of parts.
Say it again.
The smaller number of parts, especially a number that is less than half of a whole number.
Okay, what's another definition? Besides number, because we just established that minority just don't mean that you're the smallest number.
The stable period of being under the age of full legal responsibility.
Okay, that's another definition. There's another definition I'm looking for. Look up minor. Let's see what that says.
Lesser in importance, seriousness, or significance.
Yes. Of lesser importance, seriousness, or significance. So a lot of times when you're using that phrase, oh, that's a minority, what you're really saying is, oh, they're of lesser importance and significance. That's what you're really saying. Right? So if I was the minority in this room and everybody in this room was the majority, and everybody in this room is screaming to the top of their lungs, right? And then I'm also striving to scream to the top of my lungs. There's less of an opportunity that I'm going to be heard in that room with all of you who have a voice. And if it came down to you making a decision on what is in the best interest for the people in this room, guess who probably won't be sitting at that table? Matter of fact, guess who will probably be on the menu? Guess who's probably going to be on the menu? Because some people may not even recognize my voice in that room. Some people may not even see me in that room. And they honestly didn't make a decision based upon me being present. They didn't even see me. They didn't hear me or nothing like that. So you have some people who are in this majority group that simply don't see you. They simply don't see you. And they don't hear you. Out of ignorance. But then you also have some people that are in that group that'll look dead at you like this and say, you're of minor importance and significance. It don't matter what you think or how you feel about anything. This needs to be done in the best interest of the majority. Right? I'm laying out some of the landscape that you're looking at right now in America that is historical. A lot of these dynamics and power structures that I'm talking about and the ways that people consider things has been laid down generations before you got here. Well, guess who's inherited it? This is going to be yours one day. Right? So you got to really think about what it is that you're going to do with this world in terms of bringing more beauty to it and helping repair what's broken. To talk a little bit about my own personal journey. The first enslaved Africans arrived here on the shores of North America in Jamestown, Virginia in 1619, right? Another little jewel is that all black people didn't get here on a slave ship. Did y'all learn that in social studies?
Probably not.
Okay. All black people didn't get here like that. Some people are indigenous here. They never came from nowhere else. And then you had some people who came here after the transatlantic slave trade, and that's how they arrived here. But some of my ancestors came through the slave trade. 1619, the first Africans set foot here on the shores of North America, right? What year did this country start? 17 what? Who said it? 1776. So if you think about it, from 1619 to 1776, I'm going to let y'all do a little math right now. How many years is that? So subtract 1619 from 1776. What'd you get?
You be mad?
We're looking at the UB
I know y'all
map.
glad.
157, there you go.
157, all right?
Nice.
So what that translates into is when this country started in 1776 and it was declaring its independence, there was already 157 years of enslavement on this land, which is about 5 generations of enslavement. Then when the country started, the slavery ended in 1776. No, it became the law. The law. And what the law said is you, people that look like me, are not even human. We weren't even looked at as human beings. And that was the law in 1776. So when you had some segment of this population who were calling themselves American and celebrating their independence, some of us wasn't enjoying that independence. We was probably in the kitchen cooking for their celebration or something, I don't know. Right? 1776. What year did slavery end? 18 what? Huh?
Alright, they kinda know, you're close.
1863, we're gonna say.
Okay, so, good, yeah. So we'll say that's when Abraham Lincoln, you know, he put together that Emancipation Proclamation, but it wasn't until actually about 1865 where you can legitimately say slavery ended. So, when you look at 1776 to 1865, where you had slavery being the law in this country, that's 89 years, right? So then when slavery ended, you had this beautiful thing called segregation. Oh my God, it was the most beautiful thing in this country, right? So you had that from 1865, which basically means you're separate. You can't actually participate in American society by law. By law. And they had a lot of different laws on a federal and on a state and on a local level to ensure that things were separate. Has anybody ever heard of the reckless eyeballing law? You know what that is? That's something else. Write that down. Reckless eyeballing. Where if you were black and you were in certain places, and if you're looking at a white person eye to eye, that's considered socially unacceptable. But that was an unwritten law, and something would happen to you. Right? What's up, man?
How you doing?
Good. So from 1865 to 1964, you had segregation, and that's when you had the civil rights law that was passed, and this type of stuff was printed on paper. Right? So, 2019, this country was started in 1776. How many years old is this country? 200 and what?
200. Good question.
All you gotta do is subtract 1776 from 2019. And that tells you how old this country is. Y'all didn't think y'all was gonna come in here and do math.
243, they say.
Huh?
243.
243, and that is young. That's young. You know, and here's the funny thing, right? You have people in America I'm American, and they have these nationalistic ideas about how good they are, and discriminate against people that have 3,000 and 5,000 years of history. When you see people that's coming from different countries, especially from over in the East, whether it's from Africa or some of these other countries in India or other places in Asia, a lot of the people in those places have thousands of years of history behind them. Not 200, there are trees, I've seen them, trees older than 200 years in California. That's young. But you have people who have been here for generations, for thousands and thousands of years, which means they've had thousands of years to figure out problems and to solve things, to work things out, where they've been able to arrive at some solutions thousands of years ago that people today are just trying to figure out. But yet they got these notions like they're better than other people. Right? So now this country is only 243 years old. Right? Look at 89 years of slavery, which was the law. 99 years of segregation. What is 89 and 99 equal?
188.
Yes, 188. So how old is this country again? 200 and what? 243 years? So out of 243 years that this country has existed, 188 of those years, black people, by law, have not been allowed to participate in American society. 188 of those years, which translates into about 78% of the time black people have been in this society and have been defined as black people. Well, partially defined as inhuman for a certain amount of time, and then recognized partially as human for a certain amount of time, and then designated as minorities. Right? Those are the facts. So when that civil rights legislation was passed in '64, how many people have someone in your family that was born before 1964? So you may be looking in these books about civil rights and things that were going on. You could just ask one of your grandparents or aunts or uncles. They were alive during that time. Or great-grandparents. Ask them what did they think about this, or what did they see, or what was their experience. They can tell you directly what it looked like. It wasn't that long ago. So when that civil rights legislation was passed in 1964, do you think people's attitudes changed? Better question. Do laws change attitudes? No. It puts at least something on paper, but just like I know a lot of y'all seniors have figured ways to get around laws that are set down in this school. Right? People do the exact same thing. What I'm communicating to you is that a lot of times when you look at the history of this country, it's really mythology. So history is really his story. His story. It's not her story. It's not our story if you're designated as a minority, right? And that's another thing. Minority isn't just a group of people who are small in number. They are people who are of lesser importance and significance, right? So there may be some white people who aren't sitting in this position of white privilege, and they think that whatever I'm talking about right now does not matter to them because they're sitting in their little white bubble and nothing's going to affect them. That's how some people think. That's just real. Right? But here's the other reality. This country is based upon a lot of isms. Sexism, racism, ageism. You ever heard of ageism? You ever heard of that? When people are discriminated against because of their age? Huh? Yeah. You got a lot of isms. And there is only a matter of time before one of you, I don't care what you look like, where you can be categorized or put in this particular group as being a so-called minority. It could be based upon, y'all probably go to the lunchroom. Well, I wouldn't say because I know you're a senior, so you're a little bit more mature than that. But maybe as freshmen, you might have went to the lunchroom and seen certain groups of people sitting in certain pockets, and you probably look at them and be like, man, they're corny. Or they're this, they're that. Or this is the group that's over here, this is the group that's over there, right? At any given time, you could be put into a group like that and may not even know it. Based upon what your hair looks like, your skin color, your sexual orientation, your so-called intelligence. People may sit there and think, oh, because they're not getting certain good grades, or they have an IEP, or they have an individual education program, or because of this, that, and the third, people will put you in a group and treat you a certain way because, again, you are of lesser importance and significance. Right? I say all of this to say that what I mentioned originally, this world is eventually going to be yours. And your purpose in life and what you choose to do with your life is either going to serve the purpose of bringing more beauty to this world and helping repair what's broken, or you're just going to be a cog in a machine maintaining this status quo where it's not going to bring about any type of change. Right? Now, this is not something that you got to figure out all today. How old are you, bro?
17.
Okay, when I was 17, I wasn't thinking about none of this. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't thinking about a lot of this, but I'm thankful to have the type of parents that put things around me where I was able to learn to be a critical thinker. And that's what I recognize as being in this classroom. It's real education. Right? Education comes from the Latin root adducere, which means to draw out. That's what education really means, to draw out. So if you're in an actual class and you're really learning, that person's responsibility is to help draw out of you what's already there. That's what education is. Not going into a classroom and them stuffing stuff down your throat and seeing how much you can repeat what they just told you and you can't think for yourself. That's not education, that's indoctrination. Right? So just coming in this classroom, I can see that there's education going on here. I can see that you're being encouraged to be critical thinkers, to think for yourself. To think for yourself. And that's the primary component or the foundation that we need in terms of you inheriting this world, to be a critical thinker and to make decisions on your own. And to be empowered to make those type of decisions on your own. Because you're going to have a lot of adults that try to tell you to just go along and just fit as a cog in this machine and just don't make any waves, don't make any noise, just go along with everything. That's no. That your purpose doesn't lie in that direction. That's not your purpose. All right? To tell you a little bit about my ancestors, Josiah Henson, I'm not sure if you've read the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, but Harriet Beecher Stowe that wrote the book, she based it on my third great grandfather's life. Right? So that is a part of my ancestry. He made a journey from Kentucky, and he walked over 600 miles to make it up here to western New York. With his family, 2 of his children were so small, he had to carry them on a knapsack on his back. That distance, right? When he made it over into the Canadian side, he lived over there for a while, and then a few generations later, my grandmother was born on the Canadian side. She moved back over here into the United States in Niagara Falls and made her home there. Eventually, my father was born. He had 7 children. And I'm the most attractive and intelligent of all of those children. Right? Now, all of us have stories like this. Not necessarily connected to the Underground Railroad, but all of us have stories in terms of our ancestors or people who've come before us that have made sacrifices, that have done things that is beyond human capacity. Meaning, if you thought about being in a situation like that, you may not even figure out how you'd be able to get out of it. You have people in your family who've made decisions like that. So you have these stories of empowerment that are in your family. So you said you're 17, right? That means that you have 17 books in your reference library of life right now. 17 books. You got some answers in there, right? Wouldn't it be smart to talk to somebody that got 54 books? 80 books. If you have a person in your family that's 90 years old, they have 90 books in their reference library of life. There's a lot of answers that they have in those books, and there's a lot of things that they can teach you to add to your reference library of life, to expand your mind. There's 2 things that having that type of relationship with your family allows you to do. Number 1 is it gives you access to resilience. How many people know what resilience is? By definition, I know what you may think it looks like, but by definition, yo, you got your phone on you? Yeah. Could you look up resilience, please? You about to go to sleep? John?
I don't know.
You got Wi-Fi?
The capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness.
Yo, did you hear that? Could you hear what he said? Could you say it a little louder, please?
The capacity to recover quickly from difficulties / toughness.
Okay. The capacity to recover from difficulties. And think about this. And what did you say?
I guess like to have toughness or anything like that.
Yeah. Tough, right? There's certain things that you may be encountering today at your age that you may look at as tough. In your own eyes right now, it may be tough. But if you talk to somebody in your family that have gone through many different experiences, it puts your tough in a certain context. Now you're going to look at it a little different, right? So for example, my third great grandfather, when he's making that journey from Kentucky, there was a point in his journey where he didn't have anything or a container to put water in for his children. He just grabbed his boot and filled that with water and used that to quench the thirst of his children, right? So I look at water a little different. knowing that this was a part of one of my ancestors' journey, right? All of you have stories like that in your family. You just have to engage those who are in your family to learn about it. Why is that important? Because it teaches you about resilience, because you are the evidence of those who came before you. You're the composite. You are the best, the worst. You're the everything that those that came before you are today. You're the evidence of that. So you learn about resilience, your ability to overcome and meet obstacles and challenges, because you learn about the things that some of your ancestors have gone through. And when I say ancestors, I'm not talking about some invisible person generations ago. I'm talking about your parents, your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles. Talk to them. Ask them about how things were. Ask them about if they had an idea of wanting to be something other than what they do right now when they were younger. That expands your library in life. So you learn about resilience, and then you also learn about infinite potential. Your ability to achieve and to overcome things that seem like they're impenetrable. Right? And those are two things that you could just simply do. You know, so that's a part of my call to action. Talk to your family. Learn more about things that they've gone through and what they're dealing with today, because you're really asking them about yourself, because you are a part of them. Right? If there's a person in your family that you don't talk to, think about ways that you can learn to engage that person. Because whatever decisions they have made, whatever reason why they're not connected to you right now, they still have a story that gives you insight into who you are. And you have to look at it that way. They have a part of your story. It's just like you're putting together your graphic novels, right? Eventually you're going to be working in groups. Imagine if somebody in your group is not adding a component to your story. There's going to be something missing there. And it's not going to be as great as it actually could be, simply because there's things that's missing. All of us have those different parts of ourselves that are missing. And you have to retrieve that in order for you to really find your sense of purpose.